Industry, baby. Industry, baby. Industry, baby. That's what we're gonna call this series right now. I'm gonna give little bits of information, tell stories, but just from my experiences being in the film and TV industry. What's up, y'all? It's your boy Joshua Davis. Please be sure to like and subscribe. Thank you so much for being here. It's great to have you guys. Let's get into this. Today, I'm telling you guys about how I booked a role on Grey's Anatomy.
That's your fifth one.
Who are you? My mom?
It's crazy to think that that was actually 8 years ago. I can't believe it. You could tell by some of the grays in my hair. Had a different look then at the time as well. So obviously you're thinking, how does somebody get a role on a TV show? They audition and then they book the audition, right? All very true. But there's a whole lot more that went into it than just that. So let's go back to how I got the audition in the first place. Now, I got the audition not through having an agent, but through actually people that I knew and creating relationships. That started from me bartending at a place called La Poubelle. I talk about it in my Chris Hemsworth video. Be sure to go and check that out as well. It's a pretty funny story about how I got to meet Chris Hemsworth and had a good time. While working at La Poubelle, I met a lot of different people, not just celebrities that would come in and out of there, but sometimes casting directors, sometimes directors, sometimes writers, and then just other actors that were working in restaurants that would come in there. It's kind of cool when you're working in Hollywood at a bar or restaurant, you'll kind of make friends with other actors or other people that work at other bars or restaurants. You guys kind of hook each other up when you go in there, get a free glass of wine, that sort of thing. While I was working one day, I met some girls that I knew that worked at this other Italian restaurant that I loved going to. They had a web series that they wanted to do. I was like, let me read it. I read it, thought it was really funny. So I was like, hey, I'll direct this, I'll produce this, and then I'll be in it as well.
Whoa.
One of the bartenders at the restaurant that this girl worked in let us come and film there, and we put him in it as well, and he was awesome. His name is Drew Roush. He's a really, really cool, really funny, very talented actor. You guys have probably seen him in some stuff as well. His wife is Jamie Castro. Now, Jamie Castro at the time was an associate casting director for Linda Lowy. Now, I didn't know this. I was just going in there to make our web series. I got to meet Drew, we vibed, but it turns out, hey, look, my wife does this. Maybe you can come in for an audition sometime. When you make connections, you wanna make sure that you're ready and you can actually follow through, right? So what I did was I found out that Jamie was doing some workshops. Now, if you guys are actors in Hollywood, you guys probably know about these workshops all the time. They have casting director workshops where casting directors will show up. You can go and put up scenes. They pair you with a partner. You might put up some scenes and then hopefully you're like, maybe somebody will call me in or hopefully they'll remember me. And you know, some people consider these like useless or they say they might be a scam. I say anytime you get up in front of somebody, it's always an opportunity regardless. If you're good, they're gonna remember you. If you say hi to them and you're kind at the end and you shoot them a follow-up email, they're gonna remember you. Most of the casting directors that do those workshops really are looking to meet new talent. They love finding their diamond in the rough and finding somebody that nobody else could find. So I always recommend go do a casting workshop if you feel like you're ready for it, if you can't afford to do it. There's a lot of different things that they try to tell you to do as an actor that I think are not worth your money. I do think casting director workshops are definitely worth your money as long as you are ready to be booking roles. And that's something your acting coach, your acting teacher should be telling you guys if you're ready to start doing stuff like that. I went and do a scene for this casting workshop for Jamie just to get on her radar so she can see what I can do. I sent up a follow-up email to her the next day saying, hey, thank you so much. So now I've got both Drew and her that can vouch for me, say, hey, yeah, he's a good actor, he's worth bringing into the room. Finally, I'm getting called into the room, which is all you want as an actor, right? Just get me in the room, get me in the room. I get called into, I wanna say almost a dozen different auditions over the course of a year and a half into Linda Lowy's office. They did, at the time, Scandal, and they had Private Practice. Damn, I'm aging myself with that one. Grey's Anatomy, obviously, a handful of other shows and series. And so I would just go in for role after role, some for different types of roles on Grey's Anatomy, different types of roles on Scandal, and never booked any of them. They were more significant roles than the one line you saw me do on Grey's Anatomy, right?
That's your fifth one.
I knew they liked me because they kept bringing me back. That's what you want to have. And eventually, You feel bad, they feel bad that you haven't booked anything. So you just gotta kind of keep your spirits up when it comes to that sort of thing. You can't let it get you down, because like the no is never personal. There's so many different factors that go into not getting a role. I want you guys to like what I'm doing enough to book me for something, but maybe it's just not gonna happen, you know? So eventually, I'm kind of over it. I don't know that I'm actually going to ever book something with them. It feels like a lost cause in a lot of ways, but I get this audition, and it was for this one-liner. You know, the line that you guys saw.
That's your fifth one.
I'm like, okay, sure, come on in for one line after all these other auditions. Okay, you're gonna make me come in for one line, you know? And I love these guys because they're really generous, really sweet people in the casting office. Going into that office, I go into the room, and I think his name was Greg, if I remember correctly. He's like, Joshua, he's like, he looks down, he's like, we brought you in for this? He's like, man, I'm sorry, we brought you in for this. It's only one line. You didn't have to come in just to read one line. You know, like, sorry, man, this is on us. And so at that point I was like, oh, that's really nice of you to say. But I'm like, I'm here and I appreciate the opportunity, so let's just do it, you know? So I do the line, quick and easy. We all kind of laugh about it. He's like, sorry, man, thanks for coming in though. Like, appreciate it. I don't think much of it, so I leave to go to work that night, back to bartending. That day just happened to be Sandra Oh chilling in there with some of her friends and family. It was also the same day that she'd announced that she was going to be leaving Grey's Anatomy after 10 years. I was like, wow, what a coincidence, you know? So she's first sitting at the bar. When I see her there, I'm like, hey, should I tell her that I auditioned for the show? And I was like, well, you already know that she announced some big news today. Like, you want to connect with celebrity people when you meet them. You know, you don't want to just make yourself seem like a fan or like you want something from them. Treat them like a human being, how you'd want to be treated. So I was just like, hey, I heard that you announced you're leaving the show, you're moving on to big things. Congratulations, that's so cool. I'm happy for you. How's that feel, you know? And she's like, oh, it's great, it's exciting, you know, it's a lot of emotions, but it's really cool, thanks for asking. She's at the bar, and then they moved her tab to a table. Or at least I thought they moved her tab to a table. And then she comes out, she's like, I have to close out my bar tab about an hour later, you know, when they're finishing dinner. I was like, oh, here you go. So then I just said to her, hey, I auditioned for a role on your show today. And she's like, oh yeah, what was the role? I was like, it wasn't anything big, it was just one line. I play a bartender. She's like, what's the line? And so I say it to her.
That's your fifth one.
She's like, hey, that's with me. That scene is with me. I was like, no way, really? She's like, yeah. I was like, oh, what a coincidence. I was like, well, I mean, obviously, you know, I can bartend, you know, just kind of making jokes about it. I was like, well, when does it shoot? And she's like, it shoots next Wednesday. And I'm like, oh, okay, cool. So just in my mind, I should know definitely within the next couple days. This was a Wednesday. So I had only a few days to book. They got to put you in a fitting. So like, you kind of can time it out whether or not you booked it. I'm like, okay, cool. And, well, maybe I'll see you on set as she's leaving, right? And she's like, wait, what'd you say your name was? I'm like, Joshua Davis. And she's like, Joshua Davis. Okay, yeah, maybe I will see you on set. Fast forward to, I was already supposed to go to New York that weekend. Plane was booked, ticket was booked, everything was already booked. So what do? Friday comes, my flight's later that afternoon. I'm going to New York. I haven't booked it, obviously. I would have heard by now. So now I'm in New York, and it's a Monday. I'm chilling, hanging out, grabbing dinners, doing things like that. Not really thinking about the job anymore. It's another one, whatever, didn't happen. And then I get a phone call from the casting office. He's like, hey, Joshua, we want to book you for this role. And I'm just kind of like, oh, cool. Oh, yeah, great. Yeah, that sounds good. And he's like, so you don't sound like you're that excited. I was like, wait, are you booking me? He's like, yeah, we want to book you for the role. I was like, oh, hey. Yeah, no, I'm excited. I'm sorry. I totally want to do this. And it's so funny because there have been so many times when I didn't book the role, but they keep calling me in. I thought I was just going in for like another one-liner audition, you know? And so now that I booked it, he's like, yeah, it shoots on Wednesday. Can you be there? I'm like, my flight doesn't switch back until Thursday. So I don't tell him this. I just say, yeah, of course, I'll be there. Be there for the fitting on Tuesday. And then, yeah, great, sure. So get off the phone, go right into trying to book a different flight for the very next day, had to borrow money because I could not afford to do it because it was expensive to switch your flight that late. I finally get it all together, switch my flight, get back to LA. Then I still had to pay SAG dues that I owed. So I had to drive down to SAG office, give them a check to make sure that I could be eligible to actually work on set. Get all that done, go to my wardrobe fitting. Finally, I get to set. Here I am with my one-liner. Even with one line, you get a trailer. So it was pretty great chilling in there the whole time. I get brought to hair and makeup. As soon as I walk in the room, I meet the makeup artist and I shake her hand, and then from the other side of the trailer, I hear this scream. And then I turn and I see Sandra Oh, and she runs up to me and grabs me and gives me a hug. And I'm like, she's like, you made it. I'm like, whoa, we're here. And then she's like, yeah, it's so good to see you. I'm like, wait a minute. I'm like, did you do this? Did you have something to do with me getting here? And she's like, all I did was mention a name. She's like, you got yourself here. I was like, what? This is so freaking awesome. You know, even though I only had one line, once I got to set, you're always hurry up and wait when you get on set. So I'm sitting there waiting. She let me come and sit with her, and we just got to talking about life and about the industry, and she's giving me industry advice. Finally, we go and do my scene, get a few different takes, do it a few different ways. It's one line, and I'm out of there. And my biggest takeaway from the whole thing was that, you know, I had been on so many auditions. I had gotten myself into the room through making connections and then building and growing those connections and then going to the workshop and then finally getting to audition. But then it was still, even after auditioning for one line, after all these different auditions, Sandra Oh said my name to somebody. And then that's what got me to be on Grey's Anatomy. It's the 200th episode, it's the anniversary episode. And to me, that's just so telling, right, of how the industry works. You always hear, you know, it's about who you know. It's the opposite. It's about who knows you. That's my weird, kind of long, crazy, all over the place trip to finally getting just one line on Grey's Anatomy. But here's another one takeaway I had on set too, because it was their 200th episode. It was a celebration actually in the show, and then they were making it a celebration for like a wrap party afterwards, right? And I remember Jesse Williams is there, and one of the producers is like, Jesse, we got a bunch of pizza over here if you want some. And he's like, do you see me? Does it look like I eat pizza? Keep that in mind, y'all. If you try to be one of these dudes on set that has your shirt off and be shredded all the time, pizza's not a part of your daily life. I think we all know that, right? Anyway, guys, hope you like this story. Please be sure to like it, comment, tell me what you think. Tell me if you want to hear more things like this. I'll talk to you guys soon. Peace.